President Trump is a real threat to world peace.
It would once have been unthinkable that a former NATO Secretary General would speak like this about a sitting US president. But in an interview with Channel 4 News, Anders Fogh Rasmussen did.
The future of NATO is at stake, and the world order as we know it is at stake. So it's a very serious situation.
This as Trump from West Palm Beach in Florida continued to ramp up pressure on old allies ahead of his trip to an agitated Europe this week, doubling down on his designs for Greenland.
Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there. And, you know, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property.
Just in case European leaders and NATO didn't get the message, he followed his words up with an image of himself planting a flag on the semi-autonomous Danish territory next to a sign saying US territory Est 2026. He also revealed private messages, giving his followers a glimpse of attempts to sway him. "I'm committed to finding a way forward on Greenland," said NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. "Can't wait to see you." "My friend," said Emmanuel Macron, "I do not understand what you're doing on Greenland. Let us have dinner together in Paris." But already in Davos, the Belgian Prime Minister didn't mince his words.
Europe is at a crossroads where it has to decide. Until now, we tried to appease the new president in the White House, but now so many red lines are being crossed that you have the choice between your self-respect. Being a happy vassal is one thing, being a miserable slave is something else.
This weekend in Greenland's capital, furious protesters were joined by their Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen on a march to the US consulate. For them, conceding to the US is out of the question. For European leaders in Davos who will be meeting President Trump on Thursday to discuss his ambitions, stay calm and cajole has been the strategy so far, and one tested to breaking point. On Saturday, Trump threatened 8 allies, including Denmark and the UK, with 10% tariffs in February, increasing to 25% in June if they don't make a deal with him on Greenland. And on Monday, he threatened to slap a 200% tariff on French wine and champagne after President Macron refused to sign up to his so-called Board of Peace, a body he says will secure the future of Gaza, and one he's invited Russia's President Putin to join. China, meanwhile, has come to Europe and Greenland's defence.
We urge the US to stop using the so-called China threat as a pretext for itself to seek selfish gains.
Never before has a NATO member threatened its own allies in this way.
Is the special relationship still special?
Very special, yes.
Trump ally Mike Johnson visited number 10 this morning before becoming the first ever sitting US House Speaker to address the UK Houses of Parliament. In a moment designed to mark 250 years of independence, it came with a warning for Prime Minister Starmer and collected MPs.
Clearly, President Trump is taking seriously the modern and dynamic threats that China and Russia pose to our global security, especially in focus the last few days as it relates to the Arctic. And while we can have thoughtful debate among our friends about how best to counter these threats, we all certainly agree they must be countered. We ignore these threats at our peril.
His emphasis on joint endeavours and the special relationship skipped over another angry missive from Trump, with Starmer in the crosshairs over a deal giving Mauritius sovereignty over the Chagos Islands, one that would still allow the UK and the US to continue operating from a base there. But Trump, despite his Secretary of State Marco Rubio describing it as a monumental achievement last year, has posted that it was an act of great stupidity and another, he said, in a very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. It's a blow for the Prime Minister and his carefully choreographed and until now warm relationship with Trump, a sign of dramatically shifting dynamics, of diplomatic whiplash being felt nowhere more than in the Swiss mountain town of Davos, where global leaders meet this week.
Joining me now from the World Economic Forum in Davos is the former Secretary General of NATO, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, former Prime Minister of Denmark. Mr. Fogh Rasmussen, Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, says he doesn't understand what Donald Trump is doing with Greenland. Do you? Can you enlighten him and us?
No, I don't understand it either. And the serious thing is that the future of NATO is at stake, and the world order as we know it is at stake. So it's a very serious situation.
Perilous indeed.
Yes, yes, it is. So I think we have to engage in a more constructive discussion. President Trump wants to acquire Greenland, but Greenland is not for sale, and you can't purchase something that's not for sale. So his only means of acquiring Greenland would be to conquer it by a military action, which of course would mean the end of NATO.
Denmark has sent 100 troops into Greenland. Doesn't it need to be much more forceful? You know, it's the only language that Donald Trump understands, the language of power. Doesn't a far larger contingent now need to go into Greenland?
Time has come to stand up against Trump. I would appreciate a stronger presence of NATO troops in Greenland, and I think the European Union should respond determinedly if Trump carries out the special tariffs.
Your successor as NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, sent the most sycophantic, I guess, message to Donald Trump, praising his accomplishments in Syria, in Gaza, in Ukraine. Is that the wrong approach? Is that diplomacy 101, or is it sycophancy?
Well, as I said, so far I think it has served us well. But I think enough is enough. He is threatening the current world order that has served us for so well for so many decades. And that's why I think time has come to stand up against him. The only thing Trump respects is force, strength, and unity. And that's exactly what Europe should show now.
Is NATO dead? Because Trump has threatened a NATO ally.
It does not make sense to have a collective security organization where the major ally attacks another ally with the aim to take territory. So it would be the end of NATO.
Standing back, it seems extraordinary that we're having this conversation. When you look at what's happened just in the last few days, you know, Donald Trump plants a Stars and Stripes flag on Greenland, an AI image. He threatens a 200% tariff on French champagne simply because Emmanuel Macron won't join his peace board. He suggests that he'll wage war on Greenland because he didn't win a peace prize. Do you agree with the Conservative peer Dan Hannan, who said today he has plainly now lost his mind?
Actually, the fact is, Trump uses the same kind of language as autocrats in Moscow and Beijing. Putin and Xi Jinping use exactly the same language, and they applaud this split across the Atlantic. They will be the winners if they see the transatlantic community erode. So it doesn't make sense.
Has he taken leave of his senses?
I don't know, but my observation is there is no strategy behind President Trump's behavior.
I wonder why you're reluctant to answer that question, because you've said, you know, it's time for flattery is over. So speak plainly. Do you think the people who say he's gone mad are right?
Yeah, but well, I think it is senseless the way he's behaving.
You described Donald Trump as behaving like an autocrat, like Putin, for example. And of course, he's invited Putin to his peace board. He's invited also autocrats from Belarus and Kazakhstan. Is he, Donald Trump, the biggest threat now to world peace?
Yes, indeed. This shaking up the world order creates a lot of risks. So I think it's fair to conclude that President Trump is a real threat to world peace.
Anders Fogh Rasmussen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.